Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday, the 10th of June 2023. We have a very busy time at the moment. Today, we have opened our new Dress for Less shop in Newport. Previously on St James Street and now at 57 Parr Street, Dress for Less is our dress agency that provides vital funds back to the charity. It operates by people bringing in their new and nearly new clothes, which are then sold on, with 50% of the proceeds staying at the shop and 50% going back to the person who brought the clothes in. Dress for Less then donates all of its profits back to Sight for Wight. Next weekend, of course, it is the Isle of Wight Festival, and we will be launching goalball here on the island. Goalball is a sport for visually impaired people, where the ball is thrown rather than kicked, with players and a goalkeeper. We're very much looking forward to it and are delighted that the weather is looking like it's going to hold. And then the week after that, we will be launching our cycle event. So starting Saturday the 17th of June, we are cycling the Isle of Wight. Each mile that we are asking people to cycle will represent one visually impaired person here on the island. So we are aiming at 932, being the number of people registered as either sight impaired or severely sight impaired here on the island. So if you'd like a go, everyone can join in. We have 2 static bikes set up here at Millbrook House from the 17th of June for a week. So pop in, jump on the bike and clock up the miles. Of course, we're asking people to be sponsored to do this as we are raising funds for the charity. Everybody enjoy this wonderful weather, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the goalball stand at the festival next week or the new Dress for Less shop before that. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for Wight.
How you can help Isle of Wight wildlife this summer. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Chris. Spring has sprung and there is lots of new wildlife to be seen on the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight branch of the RSPCA has issued some helpful hints on what to do if you find a bird or any wildlife that looks to be in distress, as it deals with an influx of baby birds and fox and badger cubs at its wildlife unit at the RSPCA Isle of Wight branch's Animal Centre in Rookley. The charity does its best to help any injured creature, and in recent weeks has seen everything from a day-old duckling to a fox cub that got its head stuck in wire fencing. Louise Ellis, RSPCA Isle of Wight Wildlife Coordinator, says members of the public should take a step-by-step approach when dealing with suspected wildlife casualties. Don't always assume you need to intervene if the animal doesn't seem to be injured. Then keep an eye on it, as the parents may return and could be just gathering food or are nearby. If you have dogs or cats, then please try to keep them away until the situation is sorted. If the animal is in danger from traffic or other animals, then use gloves or a towel to move it to a safer spot, such as under a hedge. Get advice. If the animal is injured, please call the RSPCA National Helpline 0300 1234 999 or give RSPCA Isle of Wight branch a call on 840 287. Alternatively, look on the RSPCA website for further advice. Take it to a vet. If you feel comfortable to do so, then find a box and using a towel or gloves, put it in, ensuring it can breathe, and take it to a local vet. The vet will treat the animal, then decide if it needs rehabilitation at a centre such as the RSPCA Isle of Wight branch's Animal Centre and Wildlife Unit. Louise said, "Although the centre has limited facilities, we can accommodate birds that are orphaned or injured and look after some native mammals in the short term. Rehabilitation can be very intensive. For instance, a baby blackbird could need feeding every 20 minutes at first." RSPCA Isle of Wight is set to launch an appeal to extend its wildlife facilities to incorporate a fox and badger care unit to avoid the possibility of bigger mammals having to be sent to the mainland animal hospitals. As the RSPCA Isle of Wight branch is an independently registered charity, it receives no regular funding from the national RSPCA. The local charity relies heavily on public donations to deliver its critical services. If you would like to make a difference and donate or find out more about our annual adoptions, these can be found online.
This is Chris reading an article from the Island Echo. 3 Isle of Wight gymnasts reach regional finals. 3 Isle of Wight gymnasts from the Legacy Elite Gymnastic Academy, Lucy Collins, Skye Coos and Alora Jones, have qualified for the regional finals. This is the first time Isle of Wight gymnasts have achieved this distinction. Legacy Elite Gymnastics Academy have said, "To say we're proud of you girls would be an understatement." Special mention to Lucy Collins, Skye Coos and Alora Jones for making it to the regional finals and being the first ever Isle of Wight gymnasts to ever do this. You girls have made history for gymnastics on the Isle of Wight. Special well done to Alora Jones and Indy Orchard for passing their gradings with a distinction too. Well done, girls. You have made Legacy Elite and the Isle of Wight proud. Club and Regional Gymnastics Grades 2023 for Legacy Elite Gymnastics Academy. Skye was Regional Grade 3 champion and is off to the finals in June. She was 5th on the vault, 2nd on the bars, 2nd on the beam and 1st overall champion, commended with a 0.2 off a distinction. Megan, Regional Grade 3, was 3rd on the beam, 5th overall and was commended. Bodie was Regional Grade 3, was 6th on the beam and commended. Lucy, Regional Grade 1, was 1st on the vault, 3rd on the bars, 6th on the beam and 1st on the floor and 2nd on range conditioning. 3rd overall and off to regional finals in June. She was commended with 0.3 off a distinction. Elsie, Club Grade 6, was commended and is awaiting results. Elora, Club Grade 5, was 4th on the beam, 4th on the floor, 6th on the vault, 4th overall and distinction and off to the regional finals in June. Indy, Club Grade 5, was 4th on the bars, 5th on the floor and with distinction. Isabel, Regional Grade 4, was 4th on the bars, 4th on the floor, 5th overall and was commended. Indiana was Regional Grade 4, was 4th on the vault, 4th on the beam and was commended. Legacy Elite are a non-profit gymnastics club which run classes 6 days a week. It is the only competitive gymnastics club on the Isle of Wight. The gymnasts are having to hire venues on the island, travel across the county to hire more venues to be able to have adequate spacing to practice their routines. The Gymnastics Club are looking for sponsors. Help from any firms that would be willing to help with materials to build the gymnasts a sprung floor, or any help towards a unit big enough for gymnasts to help them fulfill their dreams. Anyone wishing to help should contact Legacy and ask for Shannon or Sharon on 0740 769 5944 or go to the Legacy Elite Gymnastics Academy Facebook page 2.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Seeley says courts not supporting police over antisocial behaviour in the West Wight. The Isle of Wight's MP has taken further steps to tackle ongoing antisocial behaviour in freshwater by writing to magistrates and the Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, to ask them to support the police in their efforts. As previously reported by Island Echo, residents in freshwater have been battling against severe antisocial behaviour by a group of youths. This led to over 100 people attending a public meeting earlier this year. Since the start of the year, Bob Seeley MP has been working with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary and Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones to see what powers they have to tackle the issue. In February, a 14-year-old boy was sentenced to an 8-month youth offender order and told to pay £221 compensation for his part in the antisocial behaviour. Speaking this week, Mr. Seeley has said, "I've spoken several times with the Police and Crime Commissioner, and she has agreed to use some of her violent reduction budget to pay for community outreach and mediation. I've also spoken to the youth offending team and held several meetings with beat officers and senior police officers to see what can be done to help the situation. They're doing all they can, but they need the court system to support them, and that seems to be where the current sticking point is. I've therefore written to the CPS and the bench chair for the Isle of Wight to see what more can be done to prevent further criminal damage incidents via the criminal justice system." In his letter to the Chief Crown Prosecutor, Mr. Seeley said, "Whilst I know that action out of court system is important in supporting and changing the behaviour of these individuals, I believe that criminal justice is needed to reassure residents and prevent this antisocial behaviour in the immediate term. I understand and respect the independence of the judiciary, which is important to our system of governance and is highly valued. However, I have concerns that magistrates are not sufficiently supporting police. I fear the impact is that some of the offenders are capitalising on this lack of enforcement in a way which damages community cohesion and scares residents. I would urge the CPS to support the police wherever possible in securing criminal behaviour orders against the known offenders in court and protecting local residents." Addressing islanders, Mr. Seeley has said, "I don't want islanders to be alarmed. We're talking about low-level crime by a small number of teenagers, not serious crime by adult gangs. But nevertheless, antisocial behaviour can be extremely disruptive to residents and businesses, and we all need to work together to address it."
John Constable's The Cornfield unveiled in Newport as National Gallery kickstarts tour. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Jasmine. John Constable's The Cornfield, one of the most beloved paintings from the National Gallery's London collection, has been unveiled to passing visitors in Newport. The painting, which has come to Newport as part of the annual visits programme, will be here until this Sunday, June 11th. Hosted by Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council in their new premises at 64 High Street, the town is the first stop on the paintings tour, which will continue until mid-July. The visit also forms part of the Shaping Newport's initiative's Generation Aims to use initiative ways to attract more football to the High Street. Previous visit tours have not only introduced thousands of people to the National Gallery, but also provided the opportunity to engage with and benefit from culture in their local areas in the long term. Workshops and activities delivered in partnership with local museums and galleries help them grow their own audiences in turn. Director of the National Gallery said, "Running the Visits Tour is a highlight for us at the Gallery. It is an exciting way for us to connect with new partners all over the UK. Through our collection, we want to enrich lives by connecting art, people and ideas across centuries, countries and cultures." Cabinet member for Levelling Up, Regeneration, Business Development and Tourism said, "For those of us living on the island, access to culture can be very limited because of the high cost. I'm so pleased that Newport has been chosen, and the wraparound of workshops with young people makes a bigger impact and lasting impression."
This article is from the Isle of Wight Radio and is read by Howard and concerns the Isle of Wight 111 service. Demand for the Isle of Wight's 111 service has increased by 38% in the last 5 years, new figures reveal. The non-emergency telephone service has been based on the island since 2012. Islanders can phone advisors and clinicians when they need medical help or guidance and be referred, if necessary, to a range of health providers. Victoria White, Director of Operations for the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service, told members of the Isle of Wight Council's Health Scrutiny Committee last night, that's last Monday, the island's 111 service is one of the most used in the country and there has always been a good take-up. Currently, the service is receiving between 8,500 and 10,000 calls a month, with an average call lasting 6 minutes and 30 seconds. In 2022, handlers received more than 112,700 calls. During the height of the COVID pandemic, the service received more than 120,000 in 1 year. A question was raised by the committee about the number of patients phoning 111 and being booked in to speak to a GP. It's 82% on average between October 2022 and March 2023. The national average is 55%. Committee members questioned whether it is a positive or negative and wondered if calls were being made as an alternative to speaking to their GP surgery. Dr. Michelle Legg, Clinical Director for the island on the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care System, said for many years islanders have been told to contact 111 first, and she said this is reflected in the high numbers. Mrs. White said 111 had worked closely with the primary care sector to be able to connect patients with their GP surgery, while Dr. Legg, a GP in Ryde, said appointments are held specifically for 111 bookings. Patients are diverted there if it's appropriate. The 111 service is also seeing an increase in the number of online users, the meeting was told.
This is Chris reading an article from the Island Echo. Dream of flying again becomes a reality for former RAF member Mike. Former military man Kenneth Mike Creed, a resident at Vector House Nursing Home in Newport, has had his dream to be airborne again made a reality. A flying enthusiast his entire life, Mike grew up around planes and served as a proud member of the Royal Air Force. Mike was born in Aldershot in 1944. As a young boy, he would go to Farnborough Air Show every year with his dad and Uncle Les, who would fly a Tiger Moth at the show. His dad worked as an inspector, checking that the planes were fit to fly, and his Uncle Les was a Lancaster pilot, so flying is in his blood. At 14, Mike joined the ATC, where he got his glider's licence. Later, he joined the RAF and was posted to Newmarket, where he did work in telecommunications as a decoder. Mike loved being around planes every day. Flying has always been his passion. Tanya Everson, head of activities at Vector House, found out about Mike's love for planes during activity sessions at the home. Mike loves to reminisce about his time in the RAF. Tanya had an idea to contact Sandown Airport as to whether it would be possible to arrange a flight for Mike. Dan Subani and his team were only too happy to help. Speaking about his surprise, Mike said, "I am on the verge of tears. It is such an amazing feeling to know that such a loving group of people care so much about me that they helped me to live out my dream. It means the world to me. I had such an amazing afternoon, enjoying the beautiful views of the Isle of Wight.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. RSPCA call out for island pet pals and wildlife friends during Volunteers Week. The animal charity has thanked its thousands of volunteers nationwide, but says they would love to have more Isle of Wight residents come forward to foster pets or help out caring for the island's wildlife. At the RSPCA, volunteers, people who selflessly offer their time and skill in unpaid roles, take on work undertaken by animal rescue volunteers, ARVs, as well as volunteer drivers, in rescuing and transporting animals to animal centres where they can be cared for and rehabilitated. Other RSPCA volunteers offer space in their own homes and their affection so that animals can be fostered before permanent homes can be found for them. The charity also enlists micro-volunteers to undertake a range of tasks, including administration and social media work as part of campaigning work. But it was a new role launched for the coronation that has sparked huge interest from kind-hearted volunteers. Ahead of King Charles III's coronation celebrations, the RSPCA launched a recruitment drive for wildlife friends who pledged to undertake tasks to protect and nurture wildlife in their own gardens and local communities. The scheme has proved hugely successful, with over 1,000 people signing up to date to do their bit for wildlife. Those recruits have swelled the number of RSPCA volunteers up to the 5,400 mark and helped generate around 1,500 applicants for volunteer positions in under 2 months. Judy Simmons signed up as one of the RSPCA's micro-volunteers over a year ago, and more recently demonstrated her green fingers as a wildlife friend when creating a log pile habitat for hedgehogs and field mice in her back garden in Wareham, Dorset. I've emailed my MP and taken part in petition signing and a team project which involved monitoring online adverts for reptiles for sale, explained Judy. I also did a litter pick which focused on items which could be harmful for wildlife. I wanted to do something to help counteract animal cruelty and neglect, even in a small way. I feel that my garden wildlife, which includes hedgehogs, mice, bats, birds, and occasionally foxes, are my friends and share the space. So I always try to provide food and a good habitat for them.
This is Paula reading an article from the Island Echo. The Country Land and Business Association here in the southeast is calling on the public to take extra care in the countryside due to the increased fire risk as warm, dry and unsettled conditions have elevated wildfire conditions. There have been reports of incidents already across Hampshire, and forecasters say temperature across much of the region will reach the mid-20s by the weekend. In recent days, fire crews tackled a large wildfire on the Hampshire-Surrey border, affecting 30 acres of land at Fensham Common. Meanwhile, a blaze near Cannock in Scotland last week could be the UK's biggest wildfire on record, burning through 80 square kilometres of scrub and woodland. Wildfires have the capability to devastate farmland, wildlife, and also pose a risk to the lives of people living and working in rural and adjacent communities. Wildfires can be prevented by not discarding cigarettes or other smouldering material. The same can be said for litter, as quite often bottles and shards of glass can spark a fire. Some CLA members have highlighted the increased fire risk associated with disposable barbecues that are used in the countryside, urging the visiting public not to barbecue in rural areas. The CLA has also long called for the ban of sky lanterns, as these pose a serious fire risk, especially in the countryside. At present, the government is unwilling to introduce a ban as they do not consider the dangers significant enough, despite animal deaths and fires as a result of sky lanterns. Regional Director of the CLA, Tim Bamford, has said, "Fires have significant impacts both on communities as well as scarring the landscape and destroying wildlife, and we appeal to the public to be extra vigilant when out and about in the countryside. Enjoy rural areas, but please take litter home, use common sense and keep an eye out. If you see a fire in the countryside, contact the fire service immediately on 999. Do not attempt to tackle fires that cannot be put out with a bucket of water. Remember, do not discard cigarettes or other smoking materials in the countryside. It is also important to clear away bottles, glasses and any broken glass to avoid them magnifying the sun and starting a fire. Always take care if using a barbecue and only light fires or barbecues in designated areas. Never leave a campfire or barbecue unattended and extinguish them properly after you have finished using them."
This article is from the Island Echo, is read by Howard, and concerns primary school closures. The Isle of Wight Council has been slammed for the way it announced and then consequently reversed a decision to close 4 primary schools. As previously reported by Island Echo, the authority announced its intention to consult on the future of 3 schools last month. That's Cowes, St Mary's Roman Catholic and Wroxall. It was also looking to amalgamate Chillerton and Brookley Primary School with its sister Godshill, effectively closing the smaller rural school. Due to the fierce backlash the proposals received last week, the authority withdrew them and is now seeking a different approach. Speaking at its scrutiny committee meeting last night, Tuesday, councillors expressed their dismay over the proposals and how it was communicated to the public. Wroxall Representative Councillor Rodney Downer said it had been extremely badly handled, causing consternation with parents, pupils, staff and the wider community. He said it was very insensitive as it was announced the day before schools broke up and it seemed to be based on statistics, not worrying about people. Councillor Debbie Andre, the Cabinet Member for Children's Education, said there was a lot of misunderstanding and confusion and stressed no school closures had been proposed, only consultation. She recognised lessons could be learned from the way things were handled and apologised for how upsetting it may have been for all those concerned. Councillor Carl Love said he was less than impressed with how the information was released, as it had caused a lot of concerns. School closures, however, were inevitable, he said, and were long overdue. Councillor Joe Lever said the broader issue that needed tackling was the government funding model for schools, which would continue to mean low pupil numbers would equal school closures. The scrutiny committee recommended there should be more communication with schools before the proposals were published, more rigorous evidence on why those schools were chosen and if other options had been considered and dismissed. Councillor Downer felt the damage had already been done due to the panic it's created, as parents may look to move their children from the schools.
This is Chris, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Tommy Barton murder suspects remanded ahead of September hearing. The pair appeared at Winchester Crown Court this morning. They are charged in relation to the Ryde man's death. 27-year-old Cameron Wayne Baker of Leeds Street in Sandown and 27-year-old Rio Tyrrell Scott of Park Road in Ryde have been charged with murder. No pleas were entered today, and the pair will next appear at Winchester Crown Court on the 15th of September. A provisional trial date has been set for the 13th of November this year, should not guilty pleas be entered.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. Final plank laid on White Link's new Ryde Pier walkway. The final plank has been laid in White Link's new pedestrian walkway linking the Fastcap terminal at Ryde Pierhead with Ryde Esplanade, which will be open this summer. White Link's head of port operations, Dean Murphy, was on hand to watch the final screws being driven into the last decking board by Andy Whitlock from contractors Knights Brown. Built in 1814, Ryde Pier is the UK's oldest and second longest seaside pier in the country at half a mile. The walkway has been built on the Victorian cast iron piles of the old tramway next to the railway pier. Horse-drawn trams first carried holidaymakers along the pier when the tramway opened in 1864. Then steam, electric and petrol-driven trams were used. Trams were withdrawn in 1969. Strollers now have their own path away from cars and bicycles, making Ryde Pier more pleasurable for people who want to walk by the sea or travel on foot to and from White Link's Fastcaps, says Dean Murphy. New shelters and seats will offer everyone a chance to relax and enjoy the beautiful views across the Solent. Knights Brown rose to the challenge of transforming the historic pier, working through the night around high and low tide to complete the project. Crews removed more than 350 tonnes of old steelwork, replacing them with new steel, and installed almost 3,000 decking boards, more than 2 kilometres of Greenheart timber and 1.5 kilometres of decorative handrails. The works to Ryde Pier are part of a £10 million project by the Isle of Wight Council as part of the government's Transforming Cities Fund to upgrade Ryde Transport Interchange. It includes improvements to Ryde Esplanade Railway Station and the bus station and enhanced cycle links. Network Rail is also carrying out essential maintenance and improvement work, including strengthening the railway pier for the next 60 years.
This article is from the Island Echo and is read by Howard and is concerned with the resurfacing work in Ryde. Work to resurface Ryde Esplanade is now underway, with temporary traffic arrangements set to be imposed at the start of next week. The work includes removing the existing carriageway surface, laying strengthening materials, and then applying the new surface course and road markings. Beginning this week and ending on Friday 9th of June, the work by Island Roads will substantially complete the highways element of the Ryde Interchange project. During the works, it will be necessary to close sections of the Esplanade between Dover Street and St Thomas Street at certain times, which, as well as affecting local traffic, will also impact access to the bus station, Ryde Pier and taxis. On Monday and Tuesday, 5th and 6th of June, Esplanade bus stops will be moved to temporary locations in Lower Union Street. Work will take place between 1900 and 500. Further details are below. Through traffic at the Esplanade during the overnight works, access through the Esplanade between St Thomas Street and Dover Street may be restricted with local diversions in place. Southern Vector's bus service on the nights of Monday 5th of June 2023 and Tuesday 6th of June 2023 between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. Buses will operate from a temporary location at the bottom of Union Street on the west side. At all other times, services will run from the new bus station on the Esplanade. Taxis. During the works, if the Rose Gardens ranks are not accessible, a temporary taxi rank will be located at the bottom of Union Street. High-friction surfacing. Further works to install high-friction road surfaces will take place in the week commencing 19th of June. Please note the above timings are subject to change due to weather and/or unforeseen operational events. Please note also that at the time of the recording, many of the things mentioned will already, hopefully, have been carried out.
Good morning, this is Madeline.
And this is John.
And we're reading the second part of Talking News for Friday the 12th of June. So we're starting with this week's society news.
Swimming on Monday between 1:15 and 2:15 at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport. If you'd like to come along for a swim or just relaxation in the water, we have the use of the whole pool and we're always looking for new members to join the group. Every Monday, 9:30 till 12:30 p.m, we have drop-in sessions where members can come into Millbrook House to learn about accessibility features on computers, laptops, tablets and phones. Sam, our accessibility officer, will be on hand to help with any questions.
We have a fundraising meeting on Tuesday at 10 o'clock at Millbrook House. Everyone is very welcome to come along and join us. We're always looking for new ideas to raise vital funds, so if you are unable to come, please do not hesitate to call the office if you or your family member have any ideas which may be a great way of raising funds. Our volunteer and staff member will once again be at our place, the Community Cafe in West White Sports Centre, Mower Place, Freshwater, on Tuesday between 10:30 and 12:30, with information and advice. Please pop along if you are in the area and speak to them. Yoga is on Tuesday at Millbrook between 1:45 p.m. and 2:45 p.m, and refreshments will be served afterwards.
Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. here at Millbrook House. Please come along and chat with members, friends and staff. Our Mix and Mingle group are heading to Haven Street Railway on Thursday for their annual trip out. Hopefully the sun will shine for the members and they all have a lovely time. We held a Success Carnival meeting on Monday and lots of ideas were discussed for this year's Newport Carnival on July 22nd. All we need now is you to come along and join us for a fun-packed evening. Do not worry if you're unable to walk the whole route. We will have our minibus to take a ride in and wave to the crowds.
This forthcoming week is a very busy week for our volunteers and fundraising team, who will be at the Isle of Wight Festival on Thursday to Sunday, giving festival goers a chance to have a go at Goal Ball, and on Saturday we are launching our Cycle the Wight for Sight the Wight sponsored cycling event in Newport Asda between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And during next week we will be having 2 static bikes in the hallway at Millbrook House for anyone to come in and cycle some miles for the charity. We are aiming to cycle 932 miles during the week to represent the people living on the Isle of Wight affected by sight loss. Our Mix and Mingle group are all obtaining sponsorship money and will be joining in the fun on Thursday during their club, so thank you. Perhaps your family members cycle and would like to donate their miles for the week for a small donation fee. Whether out on the open road or on an exercise bike, anyone can join in the fun. If you would like more information or a sponsor form, please do not hesitate to call the office. For any information of the activities or events mentioned, please do not hesitate to call the office on 522205.
And now news items and sport. D-Day for Housing Plan by Louise Hill. The future of a controversial proposed housing development on the Isle of Wight, which attracted more than 600 objections, will be decided next week. The 56-property development on Stein Road, Bembridge, would have 20 affordable dwellings among a range of 2 to 5 bedroom houses and bungalows. Thornwood Estate, Isle of Wight, submitted its plans nearly 2 years ago, raising fears among members of the community. Concerns include flooding and surface water drainage following issues in the village, building on greenfield land, and overdevelopment. Bembridge Parish Council called plans disappointing and objected to the estate, saying it would not enhance or improve the area and will harm the outlook of the village environment. They also raised issues with the increase in foul water and had concerns with highways, landscaping, and the devastating damage to wildlife the development would cause. Planning officers from the Isle of Wight Council have recommended the application be approved, subject to conditions and a legal agreement securing the affordable housing. Conditions include the timing of the works, necessary archaeological investigations, tree protection measures, and ecological mitigation features. It would be down to the Council's Planning Committee to grant permission for the scheme at its meeting on Tuesday. In a report going to the committee, officers set out the reasoning for their recommendation and overall considered the development agreeable. They say the scheme would result in minor economic benefits with moderately adverse environmental impacts that would be outweighed by the significant social benefits brought through the delivery of housing in a sustainable location. Officers also say, as of March this year, there were 696 households on the housing need register for Bembridge, so there is a clear need for more housing in the village. A footpath through the site, connecting it with Stane Park, will be removed, officers say, after Hampshire and Isle of Wight constabularies designing out crime officer raised concerns antisocial disorder from the park would move into the development. Plans were approved for the site in 2020 for 9 houses and access from Stane Road. Work has just started.
Ruth is a coronation champ. Volunteer Ruth Hollingshead has been named as one of the country's 500 coronation champions. An outstanding volunteer from Sight for Wight, the island's oldest working charity, Ruth was recognised by the King and Queen as part of the recent official coronation celebrations in conjunction with Royal Voluntary Service. Ruth, a guide dog user, impressed judges with her relentless commitment to helping others living with sight loss, helping her peers through their sight loss journey to a place where they can live safely, independently and confidently. Ruth also volunteers for Guide Dogs, the Macular Society, and can often be seen around the island giving talks. When making the application, CEO of Sight for Wight, Lisa Hollingshead, said, "When I joined, Ruth was one of the first people I met. It was 2 days before I realised she was blind. She got on with managing reception, answering calls, replying to emails, and engaging with every visitor so effortlessly. She really is an inspiration to us all." Ruth said, "I am honoured to be nominated and accept the award on behalf of all volunteers at Sight for White, without whom the charity simply could not exist.
Games Countdown by Lucy Morgan. The countdown is on until the 2023 Island Games, when Isle of Wight athletes take on competition from around the world. Teams, including the best the island has to offer, will gather in Guernsey from July the 7th, competing in fields as diverse as sailing, table tennis, triathlon and golf. For some of the islanders, mostly amateur sports people who combine training with their day jobs, it will be a welcome return to the event, which is hosted by a different island each time. Others are preparing for their first Island Games. Many are hoping to bring back medals, but speaking to the county press, Team Isle of Wight chairman Kevin Winchcombe said there is much more to the competition than getting a place on the podium. The message really is go out there and enjoy the atmosphere. If you do well, that's a bonus. If you get a medal, that's top. But PBs are really good. The last time the Games were held was in Gibraltar in 2019. COVID-19 put paid to 2021's event, pushing back the Guernsey gathering until July 2023. This week, athletes gathered at New Close Cricket Ground near Newport to pick up their kit, stopping for a photo call to mark a month before the Games get underway. They will be wearing red, white and blue, paid for by Sandown-based tech firm ICR Touch. Its director, Colin Ringer, told the county press, "Seeing the team out there looking like this is just the best thing ever. If they play as half as good as they look, they've already won." Also on hand to wish them luck was Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon. Herself a keen sportswoman, Mrs. Sheldon said, "The team kit is wonderful. It's amazing they're going to an international event representing the Isle of Wight. This is sport at its best." Isle of Wight Council Chair Claire Critchison said, "We're so proud to have such a fantastic group of representatives. We want to be behind them as much as we can." Keep an eye on countypress.co.uk over the next few weeks as we showcase the teams who will be bidding to bring bronze, silver and gold back to our south coast shore.
Huge ammonite fossil discovered in Chale. One of the biggest ammonites ever found on the island has been recovered from a beach near Chale. Jack Wonfor of White Coast Fossils retrieved the 111 kilogram Amanettocerus from Whale Chine around 4 to 6 weeks ago. It weighs almost 18 stone and dates back some 115 million years. After extracting it from a rock on the foreshore, Jack managed to stow it in his rucksack with the help of Theo Vickers. The pair carried it all the way up Whale Chine. The next step is to prise it from the surrounding rock to reveal the rest of the fossil. In years to come, it is hoped it will go on display in a museum.
Race Against Time to Open Walkway by Oliver Dyer. It is a race against time to get Ryde Pier's new pedestrian walkway open for the Isle of Wight Festival. Works to install it have now been completed. However, it is not yet open to the public, and there have been doubts over whether it would be ready for when festival goers arrive. Previously, Whitelink could only say it would be opening this summer. Now the firm has said it is working around the clock alongside contractors to finalise the walkway. It said it does plan to have it open in time for Thursday, June the 15th. It was recently revealed that separate works on the Piers train line by Network Rail will not be completed in time for the festival. It means that those arriving for the 4-day event will not be able to catch the train down or up the pier. The new walkway, which links Ryde Pierhead and Ryde Esplanade, replaces the old tramway. It has been built on the Victorian cast iron piles of the old tramway next to the railway pier. Horse-drawn trams first carried holidaymakers along the pier when the tramway opened in 1864. Then steam, electric and petrol-driven trams were used. Trams were withdrawn in 1969. Whitelink's head of port operations, Dean Murphy, was on hand to watch the final screws being driven into the last decking board. He said, "Strollers now have their own path away from cars and bicycles, making Ryde Pier more pleasurable for people who want to walk by the sea or travel on foot to and from Whitelink's Fast Cats. New shelters and seats will offer everyone a chance to relax and enjoy the beautiful views across the Solent." Staff at Knights Brown removed more than 350 tonnes of old steelwork, replacing them with new steel, and installed almost 3,000 decking boards, more than 2 kilometres of Greenheart timber, and 1.5 kilometres of decorative handrails. The works form part of a £10 million project by the Isle of Wight Council as part of the government's Transforming Cities Fund to upgrade Ryde Transport interchange.
Upset as orchids are mown down on verge. Beautiful orchids have been cut down because they were too close to the road. Islander Stephen Oakes Monger has been tracking the fate of the flowers and contacted the county press with his concerns. Island Roads, responsible for cutting the orchids, said the work was necessary due to maintaining visibility at the junction at Apps Heath, but said only a metre was cut and a large area was left for wildflowers. Stephen said, "On May the 17th, 2020, I found a colony of 50 bee orchid plants on the verge. Unfortunately, Island Roads cut the verge as the plants were just coming into flower and have done so every year since. The bee orchid is not particularly rare on the island and often comes up on roadside verges. In 2021 there were over 100 plants and 25 in 2022. The flowers have pink petals and a brown and yellow furry lip, which bears a remarkable resemblance to the body of a bee. It is one of those plants that most botanists remember exactly where they first saw it, and although not uncommon, it is certainly well worth protecting. On April the 29th this year, I counted 30 leaf rosettes with tight buds just emerging, and also found a single green-winged or green-veined orchid in full flower. This is one of the only 2 sites on the island where the species occurs on green sand soil. I marked the plant, which was about 7 inches tall, dark purple in colour and close to the road, with white sticks in the hope members of the cutting team would realise it was an orchid. I have been in discussion with Island Roads for the last 3 years, trying to stop them cutting the orchids off before they have set seed. On May the 3rd, my partner and I noticed the verge had been cut. It was very disappointing and extremely frustrating. An Island Roads spokesperson said, "Island Roads is very aware of the need to preserve our natural environment, and we work with many local groups and organisations to make sure grass cutting is done sensitively. However, this important work must be balanced against the need to keep the road network as safe as possible. Part of this responsibility involves cutting back roadside vegetation to ensure there is good visibility at junctions."
Council pays for oversight. The Isle of Wight Council has had to fork out more than £1,000 and apologise to an island woman over a planning error. The department failed to consider the privacy of neighbours in a development which converted a chapel into flats, the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, LGSCO, has ruled. A woman known only as Mrs. B raised the complaint after the council approved tall, clear, glazed windows for the former chapel that overlooked her garden. When publishing details of the complaints, the LGSCO withholds personal information, so the location of the converted chapel and Mrs. B house is unknown. The authority approved the flat conversion in 2018, which included adding an extra floor. The design of the windows was approved in 2020. Mrs. B complained to the Isle of Wight Council in 2021 and said the new development would, quote, severely harm the privacy of her garden, unquote, particularly from the first floor. The authority told Mrs. B it had not considered the impact of the new floor in 2018 or 2020. With retrospect, the council said had it done so, it was likely it would have insisted the windows have frosted glass. However, it could not reverse planning permission or insist the developer change the windows at the later stage. Instead, it wrote to the new residents of the chapel to ask them if they would voluntarily install blinds or frosted film. Mrs. B told the LGSCO she now feels she cannot use her garden as the new residents have clear views of it and she fears they can see into her house. An LGSCO inspector found 2 instances of service failure and said it was clear the shortcomings have harmed Mrs. B's privacy. The Isle of Wight Council has been ordered to pay Mrs. B £1,200. In a statement, the Isle of Wight Council said it got it wrong and was sorry for the harm caused. Mrs. B also raised another issue with the Ombudsman, saying the council did not tell her about the works. The LGSCO said there was no fault in the way the authority publicised the application and it had no obligation to tell her. Mrs. B also raised an issue about the chapel's exterior lighting, which has been referred to the Environmental Health Team.
Salute to raid victims. A memorial service will be held to mark the 80th anniversary of Newport's darkest day, April the 7th, 1943, when a German bombing raid on the town killed 20 and injured more than 200. St John's Church will host a special service of remembrance organised by Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council today at 11 a.m. Known as the Chapel Street bombing, 16 were recorded as having died in the raid, but a further 4 died later from their injuries. The bombers were targeting Morey's sawmill in Trafalgar Road, which they knew to be manufacturing parts for Mosquito aircraft, but they bombed the wrong part of the factory.
Storrs boss in despair over attacks. A despairing Sandown businessman has had his shop window smashed, and he now believes he is being targeted because he is Egyptian. It is the 6th time Gamal Ragheb's high street shops have had their windows smashed in recent years. He told the county press, quote, "He came especially just to my shop. It is all on CCTV. He is not looking drunk or trying to steal something. He just comes to specifically target my shop with a massive rock in his hands, then goes away. It is malicious and racist, 100%. There is no other reason why just my shops get this all the time. Other shops sell vapes. I've never upset anyone in the shop or had a fight with anyone. I'm furious and just feel like shutting. I didn't sleep last night. I just sat and cried. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They get away with it every time, and I never get any justice from the police. I will have to take it on the chin again. Gamal said he stopped selling smoking-related products on the advice of police, that he might have been previously targeted by drug users. Now he just sells vaping products and Isle of Wight souvenirs and tourist goods. His shops are Twist, the one targeted just after midnight last night, and Zest, further down the high street. Twist has now had the windows smashed twice and Zest 4 times. Safety glass means the vandals can't get in to steal anything, but leaves Gamal with a big bill for the part-shattered window. He has insurance, but the premiums are sky high due to the high number of previous incidents. Gamal has lived in South Sandown for more than a decade. A spokesperson for Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary said, "We received a report that at around 1:20 a.m. a window was smashed at a store on High Street, Sandown. This incident is being investigated. Anyone with information can call 101 with reference 442 302 19136.
Farm pod plan is opposed. Tapnell Farm's plans to replace tents with pods will be considered by Isle of Wight councillors after objections were raised. The tourist attraction, based on the outskirts of Freshwater, is looking to replace its 30 white bell tents with 32 tourism pods, each with space for 4 beds. Yarmouth Town Council has objected to the proposals, saying it is an overdevelopment and urbanisation of the site, and complained the pods would be in place all year round instead of just the tourist season. While the pods would not be permanently fixed to the ground, they would help offer a year-round camping offer at the site. Local councillor Peter Spink had requested the Isle of Wight Council's Planning Committee determine the application due to difficult policy issues. Officers have recommended the application be approved with conditions including landscape work, external lighting and holiday occupancy only, and subject to a land management plan. It will be heard on Tuesday, when the committee will determine whether to grant permission or not. However, big names like Whitelink, Southern Vectis and the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce, as well as 4 individuals, have supported the application. Supporters say the pods would significantly improve the quality of accommodation, and the landscaping would make the area more visually attractive than the white tents. The pods would be clad in rough sawn vertical timber and stained, with some walls featuring a trellised living wall. It is proposed the pods would mainly be used by youth activity holiday providers, Camp Libertas, who partnered with Tapnell Farm last year during the summer. The pods would have less capacity than the current provision. A concern was raised that the pods would negatively impact the neighbouring area of outstanding natural beauty, but with mitigations in place and proposed conditions, officers say it would not be overly prominent or result in a significant visual impact on the rural landscape. Overall, officers conclude the development would not compromise designated sites or impact on protected species or habitats. They say it would have social and economic benefits brought through the boost the pods would add to the tourism offer on the island.
Jacko honours his D-Day dad, by Mal Butler. The 81-year-old son of a paratrooper who died during D-Day honoured his dad with a parachute jump on Tuesday's anniversary of the landings. Malcolm Jacko Jackson, a former carpenter from Shanklin, leapt out of a plane at Sandown Airport exactly 79 years after his dad Frederick parachuted into Normandy. Frederick was a lance corporal who died while fighting for control of Pegasus Bridge near Caen, aged 29. Jacko wore his dad's dog tags during the jump while his family watched on. He said, "This wasn't about me, it was about those guys who made the jump on the night. If those men and their comrades had not won that battle, where would we be today? Once they made the jump in the dark, they had to get moving, as it was imperative for the bridge to be taken. From what I know, Dad was shot by a sniper around 2 a.m. Lance Corporal Jackson was a part of the 7th Parachute Battalion, which was tasked with capturing bridges after arriving on Sword Beach. The successful mission played an important role in limiting the effectiveness of a German counterattack after D-Day. Jacko's photographer, daughter Michelle Walton, 52, says her dad has always wanted to do a parachute jump as a tribute. She booked the experience through Skydive Isle of Wight, which operates out of Sandown Airport. She said, "He was quite tearful when he found out. He's older and cannot do things so easily anymore, so the jump was a huge deal for him. The jump really brought back part of his dad's experience back to life. It's something so special to him, a life-changing moment." Jacko was watched by Michelle and his other children, Abigail, Natasha and Steve. His mum, Iris Jackson, died in 2015, aged 94, having never remarried, and always sad at the loss of her beloved Frederick. Frederick is interred at Banouville Churchyard, 10 kilometres, 6 miles, northeast of Caen, near to Pegasus Bridge. His grandfather, also Frederick, lost his life fighting during World War I, wiping out 2 generations of the men of the family.
Change to number 9 service. Islanders going to the Isle of Wight Festival 2023 won't be able to take the normal Route 9 bus from Ryde to Newport and get off along Fairley Road during certain times this year. In a change to previous years, the number 9 will not serve the main road heading towards Newport. The news will likely come as a blow to islanders who prefer to catch the 9 and get off on one of the stops along the road rather than pay more for the shuttle buses. Instead, Southern Vectors has said the 9 will travel via Staplers only on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. The bus firm said it is to maintain reliability. Due to one-way restrictions, the service does not travel the other way up the road towards Ryde. The special 9F route will operate between Ryde Town and the festival during the above times. For an adult, the prices start at £5 one way, while a return is £9. For an accompanying child, it will cost £4 one way and £8 both ways. Weekender tickets, which give users unlimited travel, cost £45 for adults. From East Cowes, users of the Route 5 will still be able to travel down Fairley Road towards Newport. From Newport to East Cowes, it will divert via Staplers.
Swarm makes a beeline for pier. There was an unbelievable buzz around Ryde Pierhead on Sunday, June the 4th, when thousands of bees descended on Whitelink's ferry terminal. Visitors to the Ryde Fastcat could not believe their eyes as the insects swarmed on the main entrance. Whitelink said the bees, of which there were around 40,000, were hunting for a new home. They were pictured on the curbside outside the terminal. A local beekeeper was on hand to help out. They were successfully rehomed in Brading.
Call for action at derelict pub. Hundreds of villagers are outraged by the dilapidated state of a once popular pub, destroyed by vandals and rife with vermin, have signed a petition asking for action to be taken against the eyesore's owners. The Worsley on St John's Road in Wroxall has been left to rack and ruin since it was last occupied precisely 10 years ago. Vandals have targeted the site, smashing windows and spraying graffiti, while opportunist thieves have ripped up floorboards and made off with them in the dead of night. It has even led to a problem with rats being seen by residents living near the Worsley and those waiting at an adjacent bus stop. Being so open to the elements all year round has affected the integrity of much of the historic building, once a vicarage, making it dangerous, with concerns youngsters are entering the site. One resident said he was aware of a homeless person living there for several weeks before he was moved on. Featured in the March 17th edition of the County Press as one of the island's worst eyesores, then and now, pictures of the Worsley angered Wroxall residents Lorraine Parsons and Anne Rendell into action, and they started a petition. Around the village, helped by other volunteers, they gathered more than 350 supporters of it. Entitled Health Hazard, the former Worsley Public House, the petition urges MP Bob Seeley to get the law changed to ensure any site awaiting planning permission to be developed be left tidy and respectable to the eye. Mrs. Parsons of Coombe Park said, "This pub in the centre of the village has been empty for years, has been vandalised and is unsightly. I saw someone smashing the windows, then graffiti was painted over the front. Also, the rear of the building is riddled with rats. They have overtaken the back of the site and are impeding into neighbours' gardens. I know one lady who cannot use her garden because of rats. She's terrified of them. It continues to be a health hazard. What on earth would tourists and even prospective house buyers think if they drove through the village and saw that mess? I'd probably drive on." Isle of Wight councillor for Wroxall, Rodney Downer, said it is a complicated issue that had driven him potty for years, but he assured complainants he would get on to island planners about it, after taking a copy of the petition to show them. Councillor Paul Fuller, the Isle of Wight Council's cabinet member for planning, reacted by agreeing to attend the next Wroxall Parish Council meeting on Monday, June the 12th, to update residents on the Worsley planning application. The meeting starts at 7:30 p.m. in Stenbury Hall.
And now we have Wight Memories and Nostalgia, a look back in time from the Isle of Wight Observer, published on June the 11th, 1859. A letter from Penang, dated Feb 10th, 1859, gives the following singular escape from, but ultimate death by, the attack of a tiger on Catholic missionary on that island, which will be read with painful interest. Quote, "My escape from the tiger," says the writer, "was truly miraculous, but that of Padre Coelon was still more so, as the following details of the attack upon that worthy priest will clearly prove. The Padre was on his way to church, and was immersed in the study of his sermon, when a tiger, to his utter surprise, suddenly rushed out of the jungle or tall grass. But as the beast had not measured its distance to a nicety, the Padre, walking very quickly, was more frightened than hurt. The tiger, however, brushed so close to the Padre that the latter's trousers were torn. The brute, not content with a single spring, made another charge upon the poor padre, and, as he had nothing to defend himself but his large paper umbrella, he suddenly opened it out in the brute's face, which had the effect of cowing it for a time. The tiger, however, evidently gamer or more pertinacious in his attacks than is wont with his tribe, charged the padre at least a dozen times, which occupied nearly 20 minutes. In the meantime, the padre gradually edged towards a tree, and, as there was a large white ant's nest between him and the tiger, round which the latter had to make a slight tour, this enabled the padre to climb the tree and get out of his way. The tiger, on getting round the nest, was at first puzzled at not seeing the padre, but he laid his nose to the ground and soon scented the whereabouts of his intended victim. The tiger, said the padre, quietly sat down under the tree and gave a wistful look towards me, but it fortunately was of no avail. The natives, at length hearing the cries of the worthy padre, hastened to the spot. The tiger fled the instant it heard their shouts. The poor padre burst into tears and sang the Te Deum in token of gratitude for his delivery. Padre Quellen, however, did not rally long. The fright had too serious an effect upon his system, and in about 10 days he sank to rise no more.
Is there alum in Alum Bay? Yes, we know it's called Alum Bay, but why is it? And what is alum? Well, luckily the Oxford English Dictionary can explain that bit. It tells us alum is known by the formula KAlSO42 12H2O. It is an astringent compound and hydrated double sulfate of aluminium and potassium. Well, maybe it is, but it's not as simple as that. In days gone by, alum was highly sought after. It fixed dyes in materials, it was used as a glue in paper making, and the tanning trade used it to make leather supple. The problem was that it was in short supply and had to be imported, so a local supply came in very handy. Worsley's History of the Isle of Wight, published in 1781, says, Alum Bay derives its name from the alum found there. Well, that's where the whole thing falls apart. There is no evidence alum has ever been found there. The fact is, and whisper this quietly, Alum Bay is a trade description's nightmare, because it's safe to say Alum Bay is alumless, and it might always have been. A licence was granted to a Flemish businessman in the 17th century to mine alum there, and it is known he and his family did actually move to the island, but there is no evidence he ever found any. What Alum Bay does have, though, is sand, the famous coloured sand. Worsley wrote, "The cliffs are beautifully variegated with a diversity of colours of sands of different hues. The white sand is used at London and Bristol in the composition of the finer sorts of glass and porcelain. In those days it was stored in the Sand House, which still stands today next to the Yarmouth Road Bridge. As to the coloured sand, tourists no longer risk life and limb gathering it because scrambling over the cliffs is strictly forbidden. The Needles landmark attraction, which comprises the cliffs, gets its supplies of sand the natural way these days, by the simple act of waiting for winter cliff falls." So moving on to My View by Joe Plum. Palms and sold-off purse strings. The sun is shining, the festival is fast approaching, the roads are getting busier, and the Isle of Wight Council is having a crisis. Happy summer, everyone. I'm writing this on Sunday evening, so Lord only knows who will be running the island by the time this goes to print. With rumours rife about members crossing the floor and a crumbling majority for Laura P.C. Wilcox's independent-led alliance, is anyone else getting 2017 vibes from County Hall at the moment? Remember what Jonathan Bacon stepped down and effectively handed control over to the Tories before losing his seat at the next election in what is now quite a tradition for Isle of Wight council leaders? Are we on the cusp of a change at the council, or is this just a stunt by a couple of disgruntled members, desperate to get their names in the paper? Times are tough. The over-tightened purse strings of our local authority budget have been sold off at a purse string auction, with the vain hope of raising a couple of extra pennies. Our council leader has had to resort to surreptitiously leaving postcards in Michael Gove's bag, begging for more cash. Maybe Bob could roll up his sleeves and help. He seems very busy on GB News, so he might not have time. County Hall's doing its classic tactic of announcing some schools are going to close, only to change its mind a few days later. It helps keep everyone on their toes and reminds us there is actually someone in charge of education sitting on the council. They are also preparing for a shake-up of departments by merging a couple together and giving them a ridiculously vague title like Places or Dreams, so no one really knows what they are for or what they are actually supposed to do. I saw the fabulous performance of Beyond the West End at Shanklin Theatre the other day. Highly recommend. During their version of the song If I Were Not Upon the Stage, they each perform hilarious turns in different job roles, from delivering exercise classes to trimming next door's bush. Then one of the performers portrays someone who works for the council. He moves incredibly slow and sips on some coffee, not really doing a lot. Now, I know there are tons of incredibly hard-working council employees who do a cracking job every day, but why does everything move so slowly? Is it the system? Is it interference from cabinet members? Is it really that complicated? At town level, things are even worse. It's a postcode lottery. Ryde solves all its problems by covering it in palm trees and hoping no one notices how awful the new interchange looks. Ventnor is refusing to change anything because someone printed "Keep Ventnor Weird" on a tea towel, and it is now the go-to angry response whenever anyone wants to make any alterations, however beneficial that might be. Are we levelled up yet? Does the council feel like the island is fully regenerated and we can move on? We've got new stickers for our bins. Is that all we can hope for the rest of the year?
Opinion by Iris Little. These boots are made for dancing. Making an A-line for our island next week, the return of the Isle of Wight Festival. So yes, it's time to start thinking about your wardrobe. Here are my top tips if you're at a loss and want a few pointers about this year's trends. I have to start off with the Isle of Wight Festival theme for 2023, which is Gods and Goddesses. This will hopefully be influencing fashion choices. I'm thinking tiaras, jewels, long floaty dresses, leather belts, sashes. Although I'm thinking Roman and Greek, of course you could always choose to emulate your favourite celebrity deity. One of the biggest trends I noticed over the spring was lightweight crochet and mesh, which will definitely carry on this summer. Woven clothes can be super cute in lots of unique patterns and can be styled in many ways. Effortless crochet bucket hats have hit the fashion world, and floaty cover-ups over a simple tank top are practical in the warmer months. Crochet is stylish. In neutrals for the boho aesthetic, or in brighter festival colours. Of course, denim has to be mentioned with any look at fashion trends. It's completely timeless and can be styled with anything. Catwalks recently have started to see double denim make its comeback. Is this something you'll be styling in your outfits? Fringing has always proven a hit at the festivals for men and women, so I'm sure this year will be no different. Fringing adds so much movement to an outfit, making it very noticeable. We've seen plenty of fringing on leather outfits, but fun tassels can be added to pretty much any item of clothing in your wardrobe. I particularly like the look of vintage fringing on denim. The main shoe trend I've noticed this year is cowboy boots, thanks to Chanel for keeping them relevant on the catwalk and Beyoncé wearing them during her current world tour. They have been seen everywhere. They could work out very practical for a festival. I've seen the boots be styled with feminine dresses, but any outfit chosen to wear would certainly be emphasised with cowboy boots on. We can't ignore the highly anticipated Barbie movie coming out this summer. Will this persuade us to add more pink to our wardrobes? Staying sustainable with your fashion choices will hopefully be on your mind this summer as you choose your festival outfits. On the Isle of Wight we can find amazing vintage and quality second-hand outfits in our charity shops for bargain prices. Go take a look at their Isle of Wight festival-themed windows. I, for one, can't wait to see all the styles again this year. Keep an eye on countypress.co.uk for the latest Isle of Wight festival travel and news this week.
And now for some what's on this coming weeks. ABBA Chic Summer Party Night. On Saturday, July the 1st, Jack Up Events are hosting an evening guaranteed to have the feel-good factor. Taking place at their Retro Staycations glamping site in Ryde, enjoy a special outdoor summer concert dedicated to the ultimate icons of pop. Made up of a full 5-piece band of pro musicians, ABBA Chic recreate ABBA as they were in their prime. Sexy, energetic and rocking. Outstanding vocals, stunning costumes and all of ABBA's greatest hits will guarantee a fun-filled night of entertainment you won't forget. So dust off your funky flares and platform boots and prepare for a disco party like no other. Situated in a pretty meadow on a small working farm with scenic views of Brading Down, this specially extended show will ensure an upbeat party set packed full of glitz and glam. There will be a real ale bar, courtesy of Island Ales, and freshly cooked local produce from island traders, plus posh toilet facilities. Gates open at 5:30 p.m. Tickets are £16.50, half price for teens. Kids £1 are available from jackupevents.co.uk, and there's free parking available on site, plus a pick-up and drop-off area.
Put a date in your diary for the Calendar Girls. Calendar Girls, the musical debut at Shanklin Theatre this month, is in support of Mountbatten. The much-loved musical, with music and lyrics by Gary Barlow and Tim Firth, is based on the true story of a group of Yorkshire Women's Institute members who decide to produce a nude calendar to raise money for charity. Audiences can expect an inspirational and hilarious story that will leave them both crying and laughing and enjoying the unforgettable soundtrack. This poignant and funny production really does prove that there is no such thing as an ordinary woman. Producer Abigail Hennings said, "We're absolutely thrilled to be bringing this show to the Isle of Wight for the first time and supporting the incredible work that Mountbatten does. The show is a heartwarming celebration of the extraordinary things that people can achieve, and we can't wait to share it with audiences. With an experienced local cast and a professional production team, the whole crew is dedicated to making this a memorable event, raising as much money as possible for the charity. There is a matinee at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, June 25th, and evening performances at 7:30 p.m. from June 25th to 27th. Tickets at £18 or £15 for concessions are available at iow.life/calendar-girls or from Shanklin Theatre box office on 86800.
Ventnor Day Fun Promise. This year's Ventnor Day promises to be bigger and better than ever, with dozens of stalls, music acts and wide-ranging entertainment. Jointly organised by Ventnor Town Council and Ventnor Carnival Association, Ventnor Day will be held on July the 1st from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Ventnor Park. Mayor of Ventnor, Steve Cooper, will open the event with Ventnor Comic Jazz Band. Councillor Cooper said, "Ventnor Day showcases the best of our town, from our rich and diverse voluntary and community organisations to our artists and crafters and some of our most popular musicians and food outlets. It's a great day out for all ages in the picturesque setting of Ventnor Park and Putting Green, and a chance to raise funds for Ventnor Carnival." This year's performance on the park bandstand include the Hillmans, the Bohemians, Time and Tide Players, Nothing to Lose, Whatever, the Reverend Hugh Wright and Dick Taylor, and Ventnor Ukes. There will be stalls from around 50 community groups and voluntary sector organisations.
Broadway musical set to bring Manhattan to Ryde by Laurie Little. A former department store on Cross Street in Ryde will be transformed into a Manhattan bar for the latest production to be staged there. Broadway musical, The Last 5 Years, is having an intimate staging at Department thanks to Horsebox Theatre. The musical, by Jason Robert Brown, tells the story of two New Yorkers as they fall in and out of love over the course of 5 years. The musical, which was recently reprised in the West End, is known for its unconventional structure. The audience will see the story in reverse from Kathy's point of view, starting at the end of their tumultuous relationship. Meanwhile, Jamie's story is told chronologically from when the couple first met. The pair only cross paths once at their wedding, which falls in the middle of the show. Ashley Mackniss stars as Kathy. She is one of the top musical theatre actors on the island, with a number of professional credits to her name. Starring opposite Mackniss is Josh Retty as Jamie. Josh spent 5 years performing on cruise ships and toured in the 60s-inspired show Twist and Shout. Staged in the Traverse with the audience on two sides of the long catwalk stage, this two-hander musical is an intimate exploration of the ups and downs of the relationship. This new production is directed by the artistic director of Horsebox Theatre, Joe Plum, who directed Oliver at the Apollo Theatre in September. He said, "I've gone from one of the largest casts to one of the smallest, but what a cast! Ashley and Josh are phenomenal performers who bring so much depth to these fantastic characters. It is an absolute delight directing them both. The audience are in for a real treat with this show. It is going to be something very special." Tony Careless and Rosie Hayward lead the live band, the first time they've worked as musical directors together since their successful production of Jesus Christ Superstar with Ventnor Theatre Group before the pandemic. Performances take place on Friday, June the 23rd, Saturday, June 24th, Friday, June 30th, and Saturday, July the 1st at 8 p.m. Tickets are on sale at www.horseboxtheatre.com.
And a few more events that are happening. On Thursday the 15th of June, the Drawing Club at Garlick Farm at 5:30 p.m. costs £9. The Drawing Club is a social gathering bringing together all of those with a love of drawing, spanning all ages and abilities. The Garlick Farm shop and restaurant at Mersley Lane, Newchurch. And on Friday the 16th, Firefly is live music at the Bugle in High Street, Brading. And on Saturday the 17th, a coffee morning, and it's for Ability Dogs for Young People at St Mary's Church Hall, High Street, Brading, and that's at 10:30.
And now we come to the letters. Buy local Isle of Wight produce where possible, from Bob Seeley, Isle of Wight MP. Just to add to Penelope Baker's comments on food and water security in last week's paper, County Press, 2nd of June 23, on the island we have a good story to tell. The island has over 50 local food and drink suppliers. We have an exceptional range of locally produced meat, dairy, seafood, breads, porridge, fruit and vegetables. By making more of the final product ourselves, we keep more of the profit and the money on the island. I very strongly recommend that islanders buy local wherever possible, rather than relying on supermarkets which aren't always the best value. My local grocer's in Brystone is a brilliant example of a village shop that supports local food suppliers. Calbourne Classics ice cream and yogurts, Bridlesford milk, Arreton Valley asparagus, Mary Case honey, Calbourne mill porridge, steaks from Andrew Hodgson's fabulous Isle of Wight meats, and Isle of Wight tomatoes, to name but a few. Nationally, for foods that can be produced in the UK, we produce 74% of what we consume, a figure that has been broadly stable for the past 20 years. We are largely self-sufficient in wheat, most meats, eggs and some vegetables. And in regards to Penelope's points about water security, under the government's new National Water Plan and the groundbreaking Environment Act, the water firms will be investing about £2 billion a year, 4 times the amount they did when nationalised. In the past 2 decades, water leaks have been reduced, the standard of drinking water increased, and now a major national effort is going into reduce pollution doing into seas and rivers. In addition to Southern Water's project to reduce sewage discharges on the island, the company is investing £31.4 million in maintaining water supply assets on the island and £30.5 million in wastewater treatment. I know a few people always prefer to think things are always getting worse, but in many ways the opposite is true.
Eviction of residents from their home from P. Taylor in Godshill. With regard to the recent article, couple ordered to quit holiday home in the County Press on the 26th of May, the construction of the dwelling in question was subject to planning approval. If the dwelling in question, including similar dwellings, and as the majority of rural properties on the Isle of Wight, does not require or use pavements, street lighting or facilities in walking distance, there was no comprehensible reason to oppose the application. The dwelling's change of use from holiday home to permanent use is no material change from current use as an approved dwelling. Rationale: the dwelling definition will remain. i.e. the property will remain an approved dwelling, therefore a change of use does not apply. Furthermore, no residential time limit is historically applied. A simple sole dwelling change of use will not affect neighbours, and the ambient residential environments of Chale, Roud, Godshill or outlying Whitwell dwellings. It must be of public concern that decisions and public comments appear consistently complicit in undermining the appellants by airing emotive, one-sided, unsubstantial and uncorroborated claims. How can natural justice support the eviction of well-known, respected long-term Isle of Wight residents from their dwelling and home?
Shocked by nudity on beach, from Andrew Werozinski of Milton Keynes. As a regular visitor to the Isle of Wight, it seems to me the powers that be, the police and council, are complicit in tolerating public displays of indecency. Every year tourists trek to the end of Sandown Beach, keen to see what lies at the end. At no point are they greeted by a sign or notice that nudists may be seen. Children, as was the case just yesterday, see a naked man standing on the raised platform of chalk stones that skirt the beach, actively displaying all. To him the sight of children shielding their eyes from him are of no concern. When threatened with the police, it merely provokes laughter and the response that nothing will come of it. Depressingly, he probably speaks the truth. Year after year the situation continues. One year a whole coach party of nudists turned up. I'm writing to you in the hope that this letter will shame the authorities into doing something. They have an officially designated beach. Furthermore, the beach is in a popular family area and is being hijacked by naked people. The police/council turn a blind eye when children cannot.
New bus station layout puts passengers second, by Sam Turner of Sandown. Regards the new Ryde bus station. Just how much did this waste of space cost? We had the bus station to end all bus stations as it stood previously. It had the front and door of each bus close to other buses, where passengers boarded, so there was very little walking to do for the various routes, as each bus nosed in on the platforms. Now we have a long line along the esplanade, which has increased walking distance between buses to around 150 and 200 yards. In fact, to be sure of connections, one now has to run to make sure to catch a particular bus. Before this, it was mere feet between each bus, just a sidestep. So we now know why the area station was redesigned into the debacle it is now, for the convenience of the drivers at the expense of passengers. The drivers had to back out of the old station, which maybe they didn't like. Now drivers only have to drive in a straight line, but passengers have a long walk or run between bus services. Oh, and lastly, why have no seats been made available at all the new individual bus stops? Each has a baggage bench 30 inches above the ground, but no seating for passengers. Why? I've seen a number of passengers trying to sit on the baggage benches, elderly and children alike, but to no avail. They finished just leaning against them. I saw a small elderly lady try for all she was worth. She ended up leaning against the baggage bench with her walking stick held at an angle to steady her for over 20 minutes. Passengers are being put second. So sad.
Why shy away from regulation? From Paul Long of Yarmouth. Last year I sent the email below to the county press and was pleased to see it printed. I discussed it over the phone with our MP, who had not read it but suggested it was a council matter. Most concerningly, he told me, quote, "The government has no appetite for regulation," unquote, his exact words. The government has put regulation in place in respect to the privatisation of key industries in the 1980s. So why do they shy away from regulating the ferry companies? The email read, "Having recently been significantly inconvenienced by a particular silly white link error, I feel the time has come to find a realistic, pragmatic solution to the island's ferry problems. I feel the behaviour of the ferry companies penalises life on the island on many fronts. For instance, I would ask who would start a business here with the known ferry service and reliability problems. Tourism must be also damaged, especially in the shoulder holiday periods, because of the prices / reputational difficulties of Whitelink in particular. Then there is the obvious day-to-day frustration of islanders trying to use the services. I propose that Whitelink and Red Funnel are placed under the regulatory regime run by Ofwat. This organisation controls pricing in the water industry, where the various water companies typically operate a monopoly. It is designed to ensure the water companies achieve a reasonable profit on the assets they employ and can fund their capital expenditure. Initially, profits should be regulated by controlling ticket prices to a typical level of return for a low-risk transport company. I understand that there is no regulation whatsoever at present. Going forward, the companies should be allowed additional profits based on reliability, punctuality, effective customer communication, operating a full timetable, a public service obligation, cleanliness of the boats, cross-training of staff all the way to CEO level, to avoid the frequent failures of service because of missing crew members, annual customer service surveys. This initiative would not require government funding to buy out existing shareholders and will not require significant management oversight / cost off what already exists. Importantly, it does not involve the ferry businesses being taken into the public sector, which I expect would lead to service levels dropping further. And most importantly of all, it should lead to an immediate reduction in ticket prices. Recently I read in the county press that Michael Gove, who has a reputation of getting things done, stressed the importance of connectivity with the mainland and the importance of demanding accountability from the ferry companies. A key statement was the government would, quote, stand ready, unquote, to look at ferry services in the form of a cash injection or additional regulation if required. That point about regulation should be pursued vigorously in the interests of the island.
Levelling up, but not all were represented. From Peter Shreve, Assistant District Secretary, Treasurer and Press Officer for the Isle of Wight National Education Union. Recently saw the Second Islands Forum meeting held on the Isle of Wight, part of the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. The purpose to level up island communities and work together on shared opportunities and challenges. Recently, local members of the National Education Union met with Bob Seeley MP. Knowing nothing of the Islands Forum, I asked whether it was possible to attend or watch the discussions by digital means, so to better understand and follow the debate. Bob Seeley sought an answer. It was only open to eligible island communities, represented by their council leader and chief executive. This lack of real-time transparency, as happens in Parliament and in council meetings, does not contribute to working together on shared opportunities and challenges. Last year, as Secretary of State for the DLUHC, Michael Gove wrote, "I want to hear directly from island communities across the UK what they need to unlock their full potential, but only with designated representatives." Well, Mr. Gove, in 1999 I arrived here as a new head of foreign languages, thrilled to engage in so many educational opportunities at a local, regional, national and international level. In short, a never-ending calendar of annual national conferences, meetings with key language bodies and other events with staff and or students in all guises, predominantly all held on the island. This felt like a genuine attempt at levelling up for all in foreign languages and other subjects. Local collaboration between all schools was norm, and the later island-wide school website was a source of supportive subject materials. Staff in different schools always sharing their work. It all felt very positive. How times have changed. Isn't it time to bring local educational collaboration and opportunity fully back to the island? And that's all we have time for today. So it's goodbye from Madeline.
And it's goodbye from John. The BBC In Touch programme follows. There's no scaffolding news this week.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening.
Knocking at the door, said there was nothing more that he could do. You want that happy ending, but you want that heat at the start. You wanna conquer the world with me, find your way to the core of me, make your way through the door. Do you trust me with your heart? Trust.
Well, don't say we don't give you variety on this programme. 3 artists, 3 women, 3 generations, all with a visual impairment. Tonight, we're going to be exploring their careers, telling their stories, and at a moment when the accusation of gender imbalance in the music industry has raised its head again, we'll be asking what part having a disability plays in that, if any. But first, in the spirit of telling your own stories, can we have a very brief summing up from all of you of where you sit in the music business?
Hey y'all, it's Lachi. I'm a recording and performing artist who specializes in dance music. I am also a Grammys board governor, that is part of the Recording Academy. And then I'm also founder and president of an organization called RAMPed, Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities.
Hello, I'm Denise Lee. I'm a classical soprano, and I came to prominence when I won a reality TV programme which was run by Channel 4 called Opportunity. I've just recently done some of the fringe events surrounding Eurovision, and I'm a patron of a charity called Music of Life, which helps to find music placements for young adults who are musically gifted. It helps them into professional engagements in mainstream orchestras and choirs.
My name is Serene. I am a singer and songwriter. I just recently left the Brit School, which have had alumni such as Adele, Amy Winehouse, and then I'll be attending the Institute of Contemporary Music and Performance. My life evolves around songwriting, so I'm very much behind the scenes, but of course I've also performed a fair share too.
OK, so in the light of what sound like 3 highly successful careers, including the one that's only just starting, why are we discussing barriers on this programme? Well, certainly here in the UK, the suggestion is that festival lineups are still highly male-dominated. Glastonbury this year has no female headliners, though they say they did have one, but she pulled out. But more to the point, in a recent survey of more than 100 UK festivals, only 20% of the headliners are women. that's before we even touch on the question of disability. Lachi, as well as a singer-songwriter and a producer, you've increasingly been a disability advocate. So what is the issue here? First in terms of women generally, and then in respect of disability.
It is difficult to change the way folks find, source, and hire talent, right? A lot of booking agents, managers, and advanced teams, the way they're set up is, it's so much easier to work with who you know and pick your friends, right? That's historically true. Yeah. However, when we look today at some of the metrics that folks use to populate some of these festivals and populate some of these concerts, they'll use things like Spotify metrics. A whole nother conversation can be had about how those metrics are also biased towards males, right? And the fact that it's algorithmic.
But let's have the conversation about disability as well. Why should that be an additional problem? After all, you're all singers. You should just be judged on your voices, surely.
Yeah, but we're not.
Yeah, you would think so. There are so many levels of issue, starting from accessibility. Bookers being afraid to get it wrong and not knowing how it looks if they get it right. So they don't want to try and they're afraid it may be expensive or costly. Secondarily, disability culture. Folks not seeing disability on stages, so not believing that it belongs there. And then thirdly is inclusion, sort of representation. So not only are we trying to be visible on the stages, why don't we have more agents with disabilities, managers with disabilities, folks who work at labels and festivals and touring agencies with disabilities?
And on the issue of agents and agencies, I think, Denise, you've certainly been involved, haven't you, in an agency trying to give more opportunities to women?
Yes, definitely. It was an all-female team and they represented women. That was such a refreshing change because I didn't have to have that conversation initially with a man, about why I was right for this recital. However, as you get older, and that's another conversation, it does get harder to get parts because there's just not the parts written for a 50-year-old soprano.
I'm going to do a very sharp hand turn now because you've just raised the issue of age, but I want to go to Serene, who's
18
just now, just 18.
Yes.
I mean, you're just starting out and you're listening to this. Like Denise, you hit the headlines with a high-profile TV talent contest in 2020, Britain's Got Talent. What was your experience of that? Your blindness may have even been something which was attractive to the audience in a way. Maybe that was part of your success.
I did for a time think that until I started to meet people who genuinely could not speak other than about my music. Like my blindness would never sort of be a question or a conversation. Of course, there'd be people who are curious, but generally I'd never seen comments who talked of my blindness or any sort of thing. Of course, I'm sure it played some sort of role because, being blind is a new idea to a lot of people who don't know much about blindness. I also currently have a mentor who's blind, and his name is Robin Miller. Sort of just seeing how he gets treated. And I don't know, seeing his story and sort of reflecting it against mine, sometimes I don't really see this whole blindness thing as a disadvantage in some ways.
Well, let me go back to Lachi on that. I mean, do you draw any comfort from that? Are we seeing a new generation who are part of a new attitude?
It's interesting. I know that when I first came into the industry in about 2015, when I really got active, I didn't mention my blindness because I'm partially sighted. So I did what I could to just hide it or not talk about it. And because I did that, no one seemed to really give it a second thought. And I was able to propel my career pretty quickly, get signed, get a manager, begin to tour. And it wasn't really until 2020 that I decided, you know what, I want to give back because I want to make sure that other folks with disabilities that may be having some issues are proud to talk about their disability and have no issue with it. And it wasn't until I did that I began to see that while things were going great for me, a lot of other people were struggling. Similar to some of the folks here on this call can find success on television, allowing a big, wide audience to be able to see them very quickly.
Right.
However, not everyone has that opportunity and would have to rely on being able to get the proper tools, training, and education that's often just not there for folks with disabilities.
I heard an intake of breath from Denise. At least I think it was your intake of breath. And I'm just wondering whether what Lachi's just said resonates with you.
I had to really resist the blind since birth label because it's oversimplifying things anyway. I've not been blind since birth, but it's just so easy to use that label. And to be honest, I was quite resistant to it because I didn't want to be marketed as a blind singer. I did not want to be the plucky blind girl who got on stage in spite of being blind. I didn't think that would be helpful to other disabled potential musicians and artists.
Well, it's interesting in a way, because in a sense, if you do that, you're trying to have it both ways, aren't you? You're trying to say, I don't want to be treated as special, but we're also saying it, yeah, but actually sometimes you need special facilities. You might need someone to help you on stage. You might need someone to show you around the place. Can you actually have it both ways?
I mean, I know that every director I've ever worked with, I've always been the first disabled person they've ever worked with. So there's a lot of fear surrounding that and a lot of preconceived ideas. So you go in and you spend the first couple of days just dispelling fear and saying, look, this is what would make things easier for me personally. You know, because when I'm on the stage, I might be better equipped as a blind person than someone who is on the stage not able to use their glasses, you know, because they're extremely long or short-sighted. And I might be better equipped with coping strategies. So accessibility helps everyone, not just me.
I'm as blind as I think you can get. So I used to be able to see, and then I lost my vision at 11. Can't see light or anything. So, you know, I think when I do meet people, I can't exactly play off the blind thing because, of course, I need assistance. I need help. I need someone to explain something. So, you know, blindness will always be that sort of first object of conversation. Otherwise, I'm sort of left in the dark, literally and figuratively. But despite that, I really have not felt as though someone has used that blindness as sort of leveraging or disadvantaging. Is that even a word? You know, using it as a disadvantage.
It is now.
It is now, exactly. Okay, so disadvantaging. Because at the end of the day, music is what I've always loved before I was blind, after I became blind, still to this day, and probably forever will be. You know, I just so happened to be blind, to have tumors that unfortunately took my sight.
I want to throw this back to Lachi because you're campaigning on this and we've sort of uncovered, haven't we, a bit of a dilemma. You're saying you want people to have the same opportunities. We're also hearing people recognising that, you know, they need help at certain times. Is there a difficulty in balancing those two things?
No. So when we talk about equity, if there's someone who's 10 feet tall and there's someone who's 2 feet tall and they're both trying to see over a fence, well, you don't give them the same height stool to try to see over the fence, right?
Yeah.
If somebody walks onto a stage and they're blind and someone who walks onto a stage who is not blind or in a wheelchair or something else, in order to equitably service them, they will require different accommodations. It's not special treatment. It's equitable treatment. Now, for me, I'm actually proud of being blind. I actually think it's cool because, I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I have glittered canes. I dress up. I have all these outfits. I'm touring all the time. I'm really loud about it. I'm excited to share that I'm blind. Because I do that, when I'm booked, everyone knows that, okay, she's blind. So let's ask the right questions. Let's get it all set up. And it's not necessarily a problem. It's not a problem for me to get the extra tickets or plus ones or anything I need for my assistance, my sighted this, my that, right? Because they are used to understanding what I need. That may not be the case for other folks.
No. And is that what scares bookers and agents and the people who we may say are sometimes the villains of this? They think, oh my God, I got to get all these different height stools for all these different people, you know.
But let me say this last thing to that point. It's like, now I'm in a situation where I can send a writer beforehand and say, these are all of the things I need. And if you don't give me them, I'm not playing there. And they go, wait, we want you to play here. So they give me the things I need. But this brings us back to culture, right? Not everybody has in that situation. And so when they ask for things, the booking agents will say, well, who do you think you are that I need to spend this much money on you?
Well, Denise, that's your story, isn't it? With one agent. Why do I have to concentrate on you when I've got all these sighted opera singers?
Exactly. But that was 20 years ago. I think there is an awareness that you just can't say that sort of thing anymore. Nobody would say you did well considering. I hope no one would say, why should I promote you when I've got loads of sighted people on my books? I mean, I think he'll remember it forever and a day because I sacked him.
Yeah. But maybe what we're hearing from Serene, maybe that is beginning to happen. That's the suggestion, isn't it?
Certainly. Honestly, in some ways, I do feel like blindness has so many advantages. And so I'm bloody proud sometimes. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I cry about it. I'm just like, why me? But most of the time, it really is such a blessing. Like, I feel like I wouldn't have been so much into music. Like I was talking about Robin Miller earlier. In the 80s, God, did he get neglected many, many times because he was blind. But yeah, I'm not feeling that.
So let me just finally go back to Lachi. I mean, to what extent does your disability or your feelings about disability influence your music? How much has that become a part of what you write, what you record?
As I became more accepting of my disability and eventually more proud of it, it is definitely showcased in my music. I went through a period of time where I was very sort of, I don't want to say depressed, but almost in denial about my disability. And it's showcased in my work, even though I wasn't actively writing about it. I recently put out a track called Black Girl Cornrows, and it's my visual description. Sometimes I go to these office meetings and they'll spend 45 minutes trying to describe what they look like because, oh no, there's a blind person, so we need to talk about how we look, and they spend forever. They get to me and I go, hey, my name is Lachi and I'm a black girl with cornrows. And everybody's like, whoa, that was really fast. So I decided to write an entire song about visual description, but also include my own pride in myself. So it's, Lachi, she, her, black girl, cornrows, brown skin, big city, raised, not born. They'll see me with a drip from the face to the shoelace, hanging from the cane when they see me blow the horns up loud.
Lachi, she, her, black girl, cornrows, brown skin, big city, raised, not born. No, see me with a drip from the face to the shoelace, hanging from the cane when they see me blow the horns up loud. I'm an incredibly proud, daredevil, African child, straight from the roots of
So, it's about my own pride in myself. I wouldn't have written something like that 5 years ago.
Brilliant illustration. Serene, what about you? Do you write about your blindness?
I don't exactly lyrically explain the exact situation as it is, but I think emotional power is a huge, huge factor in the songwriting process and the creation of music. So, I'm implicitly explaining my situation and what I'm feeling. So there's a song called Watching. I think it's the darkest song I've ever written.
Everything you say, everything you do, you're as cold as ice, but I'm lost in you.
That really sort of explains how I felt through my teenage years of losing my vision. I love to paint pictures in my songs because I can't see the pictures, but I can write about them.
And Denise, I'm not sure you've written any operas, but...
No, it is slightly different when you are singing the music or performing the music that other people have written. What I did find, though, was that when I started working so extensively on the stage, I had to really learn about body language because my mother's blind as well, so I hadn't got the physical vocabulary that you require for the stage. So I've done a lot of work on learning how to sort of physically inhabit my voice and my space. A lot of the music, because I'm quite an early music specialist, that I'm singing has been written sort of 400, 300 years ago.
we're going to leave it there. My thanks to Larchie, to Denise Lee, to Serene, and good luck for the future with all your plans. Just one other thing before we go. We'd like to hear more of your experiences of learning a language, whether using traditional methods or the latest technology. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave us your voice messages on 01618 836 1338, and you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter White, our guests, producer Beth Hemmings, and studio managers Simon Highfield and Amy Brennan. So good to see gender balance somewhere anyway. Goodbye.